Welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, behalf of the department. So, today we are going to discuss about the topic relating to the first semester psychology UG students. This topic belongs to the historical and perspectives different manner and the contemporary psychological perspectives. So, basically what is the psychology and what is the perspectives to evolve from the beginning to present days. So, that kind of perspectives, how it can be influenced by the psychological terminology in any kind of subject. For example, we need to discuss about the cognitive perspective. In this regarding, we need to discuss about the thinking, memory, like that, intelligence, like that. So, in this manner, we are invited one of the subject resource person to teach and to discuss with this contemporary and historical perspectives, Dr. Mohana Nandigam from Hyderabad. He was involved UG and PG and also diploma courses from the past several years. Welcome, madam.
Namaste, sir.
So, today we are going to discuss about this the very interesting topic, the historical and contemporary perspective in psychology. So, basically what is the psychology? First we need to define, then what are the perspectives we can discuss.
Yeah, actually psychology, the scientific psychology is all about the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Actually how the human behavior is evolving significantly over the time, and even we can understand the contemporary perspectives in psychology through how theories and methods and applications would shape the discipline. And even here we will discuss about the psychodynamic perspectives focuses of unconscious influences. Here the behavioral perspective looks like learning via associations and reinforcement. Even the cognitive perspective focuses on how we think and process the information. Biological perspective is concerned with the brain and genetic influences, and we are going to discuss about the cross cultural perspective. It emphasizes how our culture affects the behavior and thought process. And evolutionary, actually in evolutionary prospect, the role of natural selection and inheritance. In human perspectives, how the growth and self fulfillment is happening. Now we are going to discuss about the psychological perspective.
So, what is the today's psychological perspectives? Generally, if we can divide it into some of the categories, so cognitive behavioral perspectives and existential perspectives, so evolutionary perspectives, then psychodynamic perspectives. What about this purpose of psychological perspectives?
Yeah, actually here the purpose of psychological perspective is we have different perspectives here. So, for example, if you are taking the considered as a aggression, actually here the human aggression in biological perspective, how it is impacting the central nervous system or brain, and even the aggressive behavior, how it is impacting, so, and reinforcements aggressive actions, and how the environment and playing a role, and the professional, how the cross cultural effect will be there in the aggressive and violent behavior of the person. So, these things, suppose if we are taking that example, we can discuss all these things in different perspective of the person.
Yeah. So, what about this psychodynamic perspectives? So, how it can be influenced in the public behavior?
Yeah, actually in the psychodynamics perspective, actually this is originated with the work of Sigmund Freud. Here, whenever we are discussing about the Sigmund Freud, we need to speak about the unconscious mind, early childhood experiences, and even in interpersonal relationships, human behavior. It explains all about the perspectives of the person. These are all dimensions, and by understanding this we can treat the mental illness. And even Freud works influences in psychoanalysis, he played a 3 elements, he composed 3 key elements. Even now also these 3 things are very important, it plays a vital role, the id, ego and the superego. What is id? Whenever we are speaking about the id, it is a primal and unconscious desire of a person. It is a part of the psyche of the person. And ego, actually whenever we are discussing about the ego, it deals with demands of the real world. And the superego, it deals with the psyche to develop and managing all forces of internal moralized standards and ideals.
Can you say some examples of this id, ego, superego, ma'am?
Yeah, suppose if the person wants to have some desire, if he wants to achieve something, here he don't think what are the consequences. Suppose he is in emergency, he wants to watch a movie. So, he may jump the signal also without worrying about the fines or even the police, traffic police. Okay, here whenever the person having a ego, he have a demand, but still he follows the complete what you call the structure of the rules. Yeah.
So, it means the id, it supervises the human mind.
Yeah, most of the time. See, whenever the people are into the id people, yeah, the unconscious desires, it plays a vital role in the person.
Yeah, yeah. Mainly, who invented this structuralism? So, what do you mean by structuralism? How it can be influenced this kind of these perspectives?
Okay, actually here the structuralists used introspection. It is a method of self-examination to analyze our conscious experiences. At the same time, its an introspection was subjective, and here lack of scientific reliability is there, and the groundwork will be there in the actually in behavior perspective. The Freud approach was all about early experiences and unconscious urges, and the behaviorists were much more invested in understanding the environmental forces which affects our actions. Even in behavioral psychology, it always focuses on the learned behaviors. In this prospect, Edward and Thorndike and John B. Watson, they focused a lot of research, and this behaviorism dominated in the psychology early 20th century, but began to 1950s, yes, few people lost interest, but behavioral prospect is always techniques like we can use how to treat the illnesses by using this kind of techniques: exposure therapy, aversion therapy, flooding, systematic desensitization, behavior modeling and token economies. Whenever people are having this kind of behaviors, by using these principles, we can understand the person's thing.
So, we need to discuss about the one more perspective, the cognitive perspective.
Yeah.
So, previously we discussed a little bit about the behavioral perspective and psychodynamic id, ego, superego.
Yeah.
Now, what about this cognitive perspective?
Actually, in 1960s, cognitive psychology endorsed into this, and it focuses on mental process like memory, thinking, problem solving, language and decision making. Here, the influence psychologists were Jean Piaget and Albert Bandura. They grown tremendously in recent decades, and they have done lot of research how we can learn and think and even remember what are the mental events that go inside our heads to influence our behavior, such as like approaches like the emotions. See how we process emotions, and depends upon that how we make decisions and even the solving the problems. Even the psychologists, cognitive psychologists, they even discussed more on, focused on information processing and how conceptualization is working, and information is acquired, processed, stored and utilized. For example, psychologists talking cognitive perspectives might be lot of interest. Actually, here we need to discuss how we retrieve the memories, how to analyze some information, how can we form answers when you talk like a school exam or whenever you are attending an exam. So, these are all comes under cognitive behavior. Actually, here groundwork is also has done, if anything, to identify and change the negative thinking patterns to contribute the psychological problems. We use cognitive behavior therapy also.
Okay. So, for this perspective, we have one therapeutic technique.
Yeah.
So, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
With this therapy, we need to correct the some kind of cognitive errors.
Cognitive errors.
Yeah.
We can manage and we can improve
how
upon
we
that.
can discuss about the biological perspective of psychology. So, how it will be influenced on the previously we discussed this cognitive and behavioral, then psychoanalytic.
Okay. Actually, here whenever we are discussing about the biological perspective, physiology played a major role in the psychology of a separate section. Actually in this, how the biopsychology and physiology of the person, how it emphasizes in the biological basis of behavior. In biological perspective, it may look how the genetic influences behavior will happen, how damage to specific areas of brain affect the personality, and even the biophysiologists, they look at the brain, but they are also interested in other body systems like including nervous system and immune and endocrine system. Actually it plays a genetic role, it plays a major role in genetic part, and the psychological problems is also a huge area of interest. And not only that, whenever we are discussing about the decades, here lot of improvement is there and significantly advances in your ability to explore and understand the human behavior and nervous system. Here the magnetic resonance imaging system, even the positron emission tomography, PET scans, MRI scans and PET scans, gives a researchers tools to observe the brain, how it develop and how it is behaving in various conditions. Even scientists also, they looked into the how the effects of the brain damage, even the impact of the drugs and diseases and what were not possible in the past. Even the insights, the new treatments, for example, we are understanding the biological aspects of the mental illness. So, here whenever the person is suffering with the brain trauma or cancer, any kind of MRI thing happen, here first we will understand how the brain affects, then we can use the therapy to improve the person's perspective.
Right. So, what about this cross cultural psychological perspectives? So, how we need to correlate with this cross cultural perspectives to other perspectives?
Yeah, actually even in the last 20 years, this cross cultural psychology is one of the playing a major role in different cultures. In psychologists, they done lot of research in this school of thought, how the human behavior is affecting in different cross cultures, at the same time how they are influencing the thinking and behavior, and at the same time how this affect upon the behavior of the individualistic and collective culture. We can see nowadays people are staying in gated communities, depends on the person, they will try to understand different cultures and they will build a social harmony even to for cultural collective cultures. So, they are participating in each and every festival and they celebrate. So, here one kind of social behavior and approach will be there, and even everyone is participating in their collective culturals. So, this impacting a lot. Even whenever people are participating in individualistic cultures such as like United States, they put an effort whatever the group is playing. Okay, here they can come out of the social looping, and even the collective cultural such as China, people tend to work harder when they are part of a group. So, these are the research is saying. At the same time, we need to understand the social behaviors, individualistic, at the same time how the fresh minds works, all these things play a role.
So, finally, how we can conclude about the evolutionary perspective. So, what is the meaning of evolutionary perspective? How it will be affected on other perspectives?
Yeah, actually in evolutionary psychology, it completely focuses on study how theory of evolution explains in psychological process. Here, we will discuss about the basic principles of evolution like natural selection and psychological phenomena. At the same time, even we can understand how the mental process exists, because people they need to serve an evolutionary purpose. At the same time, the meaning to be and how the humans survive and reproduction is happening. At the same time, how they are creating the bonding and how overcoming their fears and what kind of traits people are having and how they are dealing with the aggression, and all these things will we can understand, and these are the survival of the person. So, by using this evaluation process, how they are getting into the relationships and how they are increasing the chances of finding food, shelter and even other cultural phenomena at the time of crucial resources for survival.
So, one more the perspective is available for the discussion in this UG level. This humanistic perspective is very important. So, who developed this kind of perspective, and how we can discuss about the perspectives relating to the other perspectives?
Yeah, in 1950s, the humanistic perspective is arrived. Actually, Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, they have done lot of work on this. And here, whenever we are discussing about the humanistic perspective, actually motivation in thought and behavior, it emphasizes a key role. In the concepts such as self-actualizations are essential, and the psychologist with a humanistic perspective focuses on what drives humans to grow, change and develop their personal potential. And even in positive psychology also, how the person can live happier and healthier in their lives. At the same time, how the recent movement is happening in psychology with roots in the human perspective. In the field of focuses, how they can improve like happiness and subjective well-being. For example, the perspective helps understand how practices like gratitude, compassion, strengthen resilience and reduce stress. So, whenever people are working upon this, they can reduce the stress, they can live happily. So, it is all about the humanistic perspective.
So, regarding already we discussed about the structuralism, the remaining the functionalism is available for the psychological perspectives. So, what this kind of functionalism we can discuss, and the students will focus on this functionalism relating to the perspectives methodologies.
Okay. Actually, this functionalism evaluated its a reaction to the structuralism. It is emerged as the reaction for the structuralism only. It is led by Mr. William James, influenced by Darwin's theory of evolution, and it completely focused on the purpose of mental process rather than the structure. Here, the James emphasized how behavior and mental process help individuals to adapt their environment.
So, like that after completion of this one, we need to discuss about this deep understanding about the psychoanalysis. What is psychoanalysis?
Yeah, actually,
what he said, the Sigmund Freud.
Yeah, whenever we are speaking about the Sigmund Freud, yeah, he is the father of psychology. Okay, we already discussed about whatever he invented. Whenever we are saying about psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud is the father of this, and a revelation, it is a revolutionary idea in psychology. So, here id, ego and superego, it plays a role, and even it conflicts the early childhood experiences whenever we are emphasizing. We will discuss about the thought, feeling and urge that we are aware of and we can easily bring into awareness, no hidden or suppressed. Okay. Actually, it is mostly it is influenced by the unconscious thoughts, feelings and memories. Even the id, ego, superego plays a role. Freud believed that individual personality had three components, these things. So, here we need to understand this id, ego, and we already discussed about that. So, I am not explaining more.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it plays a role on that.
Okay. So, coming to the behaviorism, the father of behaviorism is mostly we know that John B. Watson. So, what is the behaviorism?
Yeah, in 20th century, John B. Watson and later B. F. Skinner promoted the behaviorism, which is exclusively on observable behavior. They reject introspection and internal mental states, arguing the psychology should be a science of behavior. Actually, here the Skinner work on operational conditioning. Whenever you are speak about the Skinner, will start about thinking about the conditioning and classical conditioning. And here we need to focus about the reinforcements, its lasting impact on learning theories, and even the behavioral therapies also most of the time people use, and behaviorism dominated in American psychology for several decades.
So, coming to this humanistic psychology. So, already we discussed something about the perspective. So, what is humanistic psychology?
Yeah, actually it is a response to the psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Here whenever we are discussing about the humanistic psychology, here Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers play a role. Okay. In 1950s, this perspective is completely on personal growth and self-actualization, free will and the inherent goodness of people. And here the history of humanistic psychology, the early development of humanistic psychology was heavily influenced by the works of few key theories. It's like prominent humanistic thinking, Roll May and Enrich Form. In Abraham Maslow 1943, the theory of human motivation, it's published even in the Psychological Review also. Here it plays a vital role whenever people are meeting or to discuss developing a professional and organization devoted more humanistic approach to psychology. So, here they agreed upon the self-actualization, creativity, individuality and related topics, which focuses on the central themes of the new approach. In 1951, Carl Rogers even published the client-centered therapy. Okay, by using this therapy, we can understand the humanistic behavior and the client-directed approach to the therapy. In 1961, even they published the Journal of Humanistic Psychology was established. So, in 1962, Maslow published Towards the Psychology of Being, described humanistic psychology as the third force in psychology. The first and second forces were behaviorism and psychoanalysis prospective model. Okay, these are the things they did.
So, what is the impact of this humanistic psychology? So, you said the Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers developed some of the theories, and based on the theories they exposed to publish some kind of journals also. So, what is the impact of this humanistic psychology?
Yeah, here whenever we are speaking about this, humanistic movement is enormous influence on the course of psychology. It contributed new ways of thinking about the mental health. Okay, here whenever this approach is there to understand the behaviors and motivations and led to the development of the new techniques and approaches psychotherapy. Some of the major ideas and concepts that emerged as a result of the humanistic psychology movement, including the emphasis on like client centered therapy. Actually, in this therapy we use non-judgmental role. At the same time, therapist takes as a non-directive and free will be there, the ability to act autonomously, to make independent choices that freely chosen by the person, and fully functioning person. Here, by seeing the person as an individual who can reach their full potential and is living an open and authentic life, and hierarchy of needs. Actually, whenever we are discussing about the person's perspective, we need to see how the human behavior is motivating, and which describes the 5 levels of needs and peak experiences, transcendented movements marked by the feelings of awe, joy and wonder. Even the self actualization also, it reaching full potential as an individual, even self concept, the image we have for ourselves, including our unique characteristics like behaviors and talents, and even the unconditional positive regard. Actually, when we are talking about this, we need to understand the acceptance, the complete unconditional acceptance for another person without judgment, even the situation, even others also.
So, generally based on these all the perspectives, so now how we can discuss about this contemporary perspectives in psychology. So, what is the modern contemporary psychology?
Okay. Modern psychology, it is always diverse and multidisciplinary. Actually, here we can see the technologies and research models. First one is biological prospective model. Okay, here the neuroscience prospective, it plays a major role, and even it impacts the nervous system influencing the behavior like fMRI, PET scans to study the brain activity. By advancing this, by using these advancing techniques, we can understand the person, and even we can understand the mental disorders such as depression, schizophrenia, leading to more effective medical treatments.
So, remaining this cognitive perspectives also, so we need to discuss about this.
Yeah, it is a reviewing of cognitive perspectives. Actually, here the pioneers, like whenever we are thinking about speaking about this, we need to understand how the person perceive the things and how he is able to think and remember and solve the problems. Like pioneers like Jean Piaget and Ulrich Nessler and Aaron Beck, they contributed a lot to a field. But yeah, they even the cognitive behavior therapy, it is a pioneer of the field and widely used in modern clinical settings. And even in the cognitive psychology, it is a study of internal mental process, all of the working inside your brain including like perception, thinking, memory, attention, language, problem solving and learning. Learning about how people think and process the information, and even it helps the researchers, even the psychologists, to understand the human brain and assess people with psychological differences. Even the cognitive psychologists to explore the variety of topics like how people can attention affects the person's ability and how this process of information in the environment while turning out to irrelevant delays, and choice based behavior, actions driven by the choice among our other possibilities. So, here decision making, forgetting, information processing, language acquisition, but we learn, read, write and express ourselves, even how the memory is working, how the problem solving, and speech perception, how we process what others are saying, visual perception, how see the physical world around.
Finally, just a brief about the history of cognitive perspective. What is the history of cognitive perspective?
Okay, here whenever we are discussing about the history of the it's called 1950s and 70s. Okay, cognitive psychology is the pioneer of the field, and this theory holds how the learning our behaviors and interacting with our environment works, and it focuses strictly observable behavior, not thought and emotion. It even focuses on the internal process which affects the behavior. Actually, here the shift including the memory, attention, the language acquisition begin to emerge. So, this is all about the cognitive process.
So, reasons, what are the reasons to consult a cognitive psychologist?
See, whenever people are suffering with Alzheimer's disease, dementia, memory loss or brain treatment, even we discussed about these problems, people will help this, and even the interventions for learning disabilities like perceptual or sensory issues, therapy for speech or language disorder. Okay, even in evolutionary process also, William James and American psychologist, he also focused on the functionalism, defines their functions. So, all these things we can understand, we can see that how the person process the information, how they can improve their ability to solve the problems, even the communication skills, express emotions, identify others' intentions, choose a healthy mate and group cooperation also. And whenever people are seeking the survival mode, they may choose the fight mode or flight response, so to activate their behavior. In addition, aggressive behavior also with people compete for resource or mates. Even social skills also, they will try to result the population and they will improve their traits to for the future generation to adapt their behaviors.
Yeah. So, finally, about this perspectives in contemporary and historical perspectives in psychology. So, already we discussed about something about the behavioristic perspective, then psychological perspective, then psychodynamics perspective, then cognitive perspective. In this cognitive perspective, the student will be able to write about the some points about the intelligence thinking relating to the cognitive perspective. Then some of the concepts we need to focus on the id, ego, superego that relates to the Freud's analytic perspective. In this concept already we discussed earlier, and today's topic that is what is id, ego, superego. The id is the main part of the desires. Then after that the ego is the key point to control the superego, and id, that is the midpoint, then superego, like this. In this client centered therapy, the CBT therapy also we discussed, that is cognitive behavioral therapy. Then already we discussed about the some points relating to the this Abraham Maslow, the hierarchy needs. There are 5 needs. So, we need to focus on that 5 needs. Based on that needs, the behavior comes from the humanistic perspectives. The humanistic itself, it means the focus mainly Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers developed some of the concepts relating to this self-centered theory. So, in this manner what are the applications on the real life situations, madam, finally?
Yeah, we will we'll end this with this. So, here when we are discussing about the psychological process, it influences the dives like education, cognitive theories and shape teaching strategies, and even it helps to improve their quality of education and health, biopsychosocial model, guide treatment plans, even the business behavioral psychology, informs marketing and management. Technology, cognitive science, it helps the design user friendly system, and counseling, cognitive approaches to guide therapy and humanistic approaches also. So, in modern psychologists often combine perspective to address complex issues like trauma, addiction and even the learning disabilities.
So, how we can conclude about this today's total topic?
Yeah, actually here the conclusion is like whatever the introspective methods we are having, and even the scientific studies and even the historical perspectives, which lays the foundation for the contemporary approaches that are empirical, interview and applicable across the various fields. Here, to understand both past and present perspectives, it allows for a comprehensive view of the human mind and behavior, promoting better mental health and well-being in increasingly complex world. This is all about that.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
So, the very valued point. So, today we discussed about this contemporary and historical perspectives of psychology. This will help to the students of UG and of course, sometimes PG diploma students also, because basically the contemporary psychology is very important to know the psychology of the human behavior. So, thank you very much for your discussing about this total topic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.